welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Diane, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Do you love lactation tea but hate the taste? Fairhaven Health Nursing Time Tea is an herbal lactation tea with a light lemon taste that you won't need to choke down. Nursing Time Tea is made with herbs such as fennel seed, goat's rue, and blessed thistle that have been used for centuries to support healthy milk supply and soothe an upset tummy. Head to fairhavenhealth.com and use promo code BADASS for 10% off your purchase.
And I have the review of the week for us. Yay. Oh, you sound so thrilled. Like, yay.
I am. Yay. I have a little bit of a cold, so if I sound like a different person right now, it's because my nose is like completely blocked up.
Well, everybody I feel like is sick right now. It's
I know.
terrible.
Yeah, the whole family is.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a review from Shikali, and she says that this has given her peace of mind. I've been breastfeeding my son for a little over 2 years. Woohoo! And while I wish I had this podcast when he was first born, I'm still glad I found it. I've been listening for at least 6 months. I had a fairly simple breastfeeding experience. It was mostly go with the flow, except for minor concerns. Listening to these two wonderful ladies and thinking back to so many things makes sense. The biggest breastfeeding hardship have been lately as he's now a toddler, and people judge the fact that we are still breastfeeding. But Dianne and Abby put my mind at ease with the decision I am making. Thank you so much for all your realness and encouragement. Aww.
That's so awesome.
Congratulations to you, because it's
yeah,
hard.
congratulations. That's a really long time.
Yeah, awesome.
I think we need more like breastfeeding beyond infancy episodes because that's a real lonely time. Like a lot of the support. I mean, there's already a lack of support, and then after like they're kind of a little bit not babies, the support, even more of the support drops away.
Yeah, or just so that mothers know that it's normal. You know, like I think people think, oh, you're supposed to be done now, and or 6 months supposed to be done now, and it's like really the norm is longer than that. So if you want to go longer than that, that's normal. It's okay. You know, it's like it's fine.
And there's people all around doing it. You know, sometimes people don't even talk about it because they just feel like out of place. But you don't even know like all the people that are breastfeeding their toddlers.
It's amazing. It really is.
So today,
we got a good one.
We do. This is going to be a fun one.
I think we say this like every week, but seriously, this is a good one.
Well, yeah, at least we're excited about all of our topics.
Yeah, that's true.
This goes along the lines of like myths too, I think.
Yes.
It's such there's so many myths around milk supply, and that's how it gets to be so confusing, and then everyone thinks they have low milk supply. And how is it possible that everyone has low milk supply? Maybe, possibly, there's a lot of terrible information out there.
You think?
Yeah.
Just possibly there is.
So, these are going to be a list of things that are not a sign of low milk supply.
Right. So, if you see these things, it is not a sign of low milk supply. It is a sign of good milk supply. The stuff we're about to talk about. So don't let it be confused with, like, if we talk about these things, don't go, oh my gosh, does that mean there's low milk supply? No. This is things that we're going to talk about today are things that we see that mothers ask us about all the time that we say, that is not a sign of low milk supply.
People contact us and say, oh my God, this is happening to me. Can you tell me how to boost my milk supply? And, a lot of people, most people will say, can you tell me how to increase my milk supply? And then we reply with,
what's going on? Because
what makes you think you have low milk supply?
Yeah.
And then people will say, well, this. Except that's the problem is that usually what people say is not an indication of low milk supply. It's the misinformation.
Right.
So what's the list?
So
what's first on our list?
First on the list is pumping output. This is a huge,
yes, that is such a good one.
And as you get more into your breastfeeding relationship and your baby's a little bit older and you are doing more pumping, say you have to go back to work or you're doing some bottles or whatever, then we know, at that point, okay, the pumping is just the pumping. It is what it is. But in the beginning, like the first couple times you might ever pump, if you don't get much milk, you go, oh my gosh, my baby's starving. There's no way I'm making enough milk for my baby. I only pumped an ounce. How is this even possible? There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, like, some people just pump, like, drips into the bottle.
Yeah.
I remember that. Like, there would be, like, half an ounce on one side, and the other side would be, like, drips.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, my God, I don't have any milk.
Or, what? You know how many times I've had a mom come to me, still in the 21st century, come to me and say, my pediatrician said, take 24 hours and just pump and see what the baby's getting. It's like, that is not...
Oh, my gosh.
That is not accurate. And it will make you feel like a failure. Pumping has nothing to do with your supply. The only time I ever use pumping as a gauge is to see, like, because if a mom says to me, oh, I'm pumping, 5 ounces, which is not the norm, by the way, then I say, okay, there's probably an oversupply issue here going on. Like, I use that to gauge oversupply more than I use it to gauge no supply. Or if the mom is trying to say, I have a low milk supply, and I'm like, well, what's happening? Are you pumping? Yes, I pump, I feed, I pump, and da-da-da-da. And I'm getting, if she says I get 0 milk, then we need to talk about, okay, what's going on with that pumping? Or is it truly a low milk supply issue? But a lot of times it's just the pumping thing. Because a lot of women, pumping is really not a very fun experience for a lot of
pumping
women.
Pumping is a learned skill and an art.
Yes.
You have to figure out how to do it. And even some people can work and work and work to pump, and the pump will never empty your breast the way your baby does.
No. Mm-mm.
Right? You'll never get all of that out the way that your baby does. And some people will work and work and work and to learn the skill of pumping and still just not pump a lot. Like, people respond differently to pumps.
They do. They respond differently to pumps. Different times of day. A lot of mothers don't realize that too. Like, if you say to me, I pump an ounce in the evening, that's great, because in the evening you are tapped. Like, you were just, supply is just not pumping well in the evening. Morning, a lot of women find that they get more milk in the morning. So it's like, it varies depending on the time of day. It varies depending on the baby. It varies depending on the mom. It varies depending on where you are in your breastfeeding relationship. It's like, it is so crazy how inconsistent pumping is.
Yeah.
And we
cannot
use that. Yeah, you can't use that as a gauge for your supply.
Do not. Yeah. If you are not pumping a lot, do not think that you're not making a lot of milk, because it's in there. You just can't get it out.
Right.
Only your baby. Your baby's the only expert on being able to get it out.
And why are we trusting this machine over our body? Mamas, do not do that. Do not look at the pump and go, oh, this is telling me I don't have milk. Trust your body, not your machine. It's just a machine. It's just a tool. That's all it is.
And if you're having trouble pumping milks, enough milk to kind of get through your work day or to whatever, there's other thing, you can learn how to pump more milk. And actually on our website at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, there's a great article to pump more milk, use hands-on pumping.
I love that. Yeah.
And it's a really great way to get more milk. And then, of course, you're always going to want to check in with the caregiver about overfeeding, because that happens too.
I was just going to say that. When a mom says to me, I need to pump more milk, I'm not pumping enough for the baby while I'm gone, that's my first question. How much milk are they giving the baby?
Well, and then a lot of people will say, I only get 2 ounces. And I'm like, that's a lot of milk.
Yeah, that is.
I could never pump 2 ounces of milk. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, but like 2 ounces of milk that's a good amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you could probably pump a little bit more if you used hands-on pumping. You could totally, literally squeeze a little more out.
Yeah, so don't worry about the pumping output.
Yeah.
The second one, this is one of my faves, taking a bottle. So
yes.
And here's the situation. This is the most common situation that I see. We've got our newborn baby, and when I say newborn, we're talking like birth to probably, I don't know, a month or two. Feed the baby at the breast. Baby still, you burp the baby or whatever happens, and the baby, is awake or wakes up. Maybe they fell asleep while they were nursing, and then they wake up because you burp them, or they wake up because you changed their diaper or something. Put them down, whatever. And they wake up, and then they start rooting again. And people go, the baby's hungry. The baby's still hungry. Or you fed the baby, and the baby's a little fussy, and people go, the baby's crying. They're still hungry. So you go, I just fed him, so I must not have any milk left. Let me give him a bottle. And they suck down that bottle. right? They suck it down like they're starving and it's their last meal. Like, it's just crazy.
That is totally what they do. Yep.
They do. And it freaks people out because people you know how many moms, and I always feel so, like my heart so goes out to these moms because they'll call me and they'll be like, I must be I'm starving my baby. I'm starving them because like I gave them a bottle and they just sucked it down, but they will not take the breast milk. And it's like, that has nothing to do with their hunger at all.
I was told that I was starving my baby.
Oh,
do you remember that when when he was first born and I wasn't making any milk? You know, within hours of him being born, and then he was crying because he was starving.
Because you're supposed to have a full supply, and your baby's starving to death after they're born. Yeah.
And so they're like, you want to give him, you need to give him some formula. And I was like, of course I do. Yes. Oh my God, give him formula. Yes. Oh my God, I don't want him to starve to death. He just got here.
So
yeah.
The reason why they take that bottle like that is because babies, that suck reflex is involuntary, right? So we put the bottle in, it stimulates their suck reflex. It's hard. That bottle is very, there's structure to that bottle. They can grab onto it. It makes them suck. It makes them swallow, which makes them suck again. And the milk is flowing and they have to either swallow it or choke on it. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to swallow it. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, it looks like they suck down this bottle. They are not starving. That does not mean they're starving.
They're not sucking down a bottle because they're starving. They're sucking down a bottle because they don't know what else to do with it.
And they have to, it's like sink or swim.
Try an experiment. Stick something else in their mouth.
Right.
What do? They suck on it like it's their, like their life depends on it. Mm-hmm. That's just what they do when you put something in their mouth.
Right. They can't help it. It's a reflex. It's involuntary for the first 3 months of their lives.
Totally involuntary. Yep.
Which means they just do it. So that is not a good indication. And put on top of that your newborn, who just got here, as Abby put it, they just got here. So they don't know they're hungry. They don't know they're full. They don't know what that sensation is. They're newborns. They have no idea what that sensation is. So they are not going to go, oh, I'm full. I can't take that bottle. And a lot of times you will hear people say, oh, they won't take it if they're not hungry. A baby that's 3 days old absolutely will, because they don't know the difference.
No, they have no idea.
They have no idea. Your baby's not controlling their hunger and their satiated feeling and their hungry feeling. They don't know that at a couple of days old. So we have to kind of and it's confusing because we try to figure it out and we try to know what their cues are and their cries are, but it's really hard to know that when you've just met your baby. And that doesn't mean you're a bad mom. It just means that's normal. That's a normal thing. So if they take the bottle, that does not mean they're starving. It doesn't at all.
No, and if they are they're continued to nurse, they seem fussy, they're latched on for a really long time, you feel like they're not getting enough milk. That's it. Just let them continue to be at your breast. That's actually going to help your milk supply. You just let them be there. It doesn't mean they're starving.
No.
They're supposed to be there at your breast, sucking all the time, pretty much. That's
And I always felt did you try to put them back on? And if the mom is really sore, there's nipple damage, there's something going on with the latch, that's a totally different story. But if it's if you fed your baby and they came off and they seem like they're hungry again, put them back on. If they just suck a couple times and go to sleep, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted that comfort of sucking a few times so they could go to sleep in their mom's arms. It doesn't mean they're hungry. And people are, oh yeah, give them a bottle, oh yeah. Then they slept. They slept, a couple hours. Well, yeah, because now they're overfull. And that's not a good thing either. It's not a good thing to have a doped up food coma baby all the time. So don't try to that is not our goal, is to have this baby that's so full that they're just going to sleep all the time.
Yeah. So the fact that your baby took the bottle and drank it is not a sign of low milk supply.
Right. Not a sign. And that brings us to our next one, which is crying and fussy. The crying, fussy baby after a feeding. That is not a sign of hunger or a sign of low milk supply. Yeah. They could be fussy. It could be, their time of day that they're fussy. All babies have that time of day, usually evening. Sometimes it could vary, but most mamas will tell you it's evening, that they're just super fussy. And they're unsettled. Maybe they've got a burp. Maybe they've got some gas. Maybe they want to go to sleep. Maybe they want to keep sucking and you took them off. Who knows what it is? Maybe they don't even know what they're pissed off about, which is more
that's
likely.
the thing. They have no idea.
Yeah.
And you'll never know. Maybe it's too light. Maybe it's too dark. Maybe it's too cold. Maybe it's too hot. Maybe they peed. Maybe, they have to fart. You have no idea. They could be fussing about a million different things.
It's not always food related. It's not.
No, and fussiness is like a really hard, that's not a really indicator of anything. Mm-mm. They're just fussy. They're babies. Yeah, I'm fussy. I'm 42. Like, there's not, you can't, that's not a gauge of, this is not a sign of anything. And you see it on everything. Here's a signs of blah, 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 fussy baby. It's like on everything. It's like, it's not, that's not an indication of anything except that they're a baby.
Right. They're going to have their fussy times. And if you just kind of put that in your head that it's going to happen, and you just have to figure out how to soothe them. For some babies, it's just their personality. Like sometimes they're just fussy. It's just their personality. And it doesn't mean that they need more food or that you have a low milk supply. And that is something that you hear a lot too. It's like, well, baby was kind of fussy afterwards and I don't think I'm making enough milk. Yeah. Okay. We can't tie one with the other because they don't go together. They really don't.
And more after a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Fairhaven Health. The Milky's Milk Saver on the go is a mini version of the original Milk Saver loved by so many. This is a discreet breast milk collection system that can be tucked right into your shirt to collect milk that leaks throughout the day. It also protects sore nipples while they heal. Head to fairhavenhealth.com and use promo code BADASS for 10% off your purchase.
And weight gain. Let's talk about weight gain. And we talked about this. We won't spend a ton of time on this because we just did a whole podcast on it last week.
See previous episode.
Yes, see previous episode about weight gain. But weight gain is not always a good indication of milk supply. Your baby could be a slow gainer. Your baby could be growing in length. Your baby could be, super busy, rolling, crawling, all of that stuff. There's a lot of reasons why babies gain the way they do. And when they are breastfeeding, they gain the way their bodies tell them to gain. So it might not be that they're putting on all these pounds, and that's okay. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with your milk supply. Or that your milk doesn't have enough calories. Ugh. Hate that one. Or there's not enough fat content in your milk. Whatever. Right. I can't even deal with that. Oh, I'm so jaded today about that.
I know, it's ridiculous, but how is it's true though. Like how your body got it wrong.
Yep, you're wrong.
If there's not enough calories or fat in your milk, just the whole human race. I don't know how they survived this whole time because it's all wrong. They made it all wrong for you. Yeah. For your baby.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It really, if you really think about it, it makes no sense. When a doctor says that to you, or a mother, or your mother, or a mother-in-law, or some random person at the subway, if they say that to you, then it makes, you go, oh my gosh, maybe my milk does not have enough calories. Maybe that's the thing. It's not. If you really sit back and you think about it, your body made a baby. It's not going to make milk that isn't okay for that baby. It just isn't going to happen. It's not how it works.
No.
So do not even think about that. So weight gain is not an indication of low milk supply. We look at a lot of different things before we look at that weight gain, before we look at milk supply. But the first thing, you take your baby to the doctor and they're not gaining the way the doctor says the baby should be gaining, then we always go, oh, it's my milk supply. Nope, might not be your milk supply at all. It could be a totally different thing. So do not all of a sudden go to that as being an issue. Diaper output. So I will admit that I look at wet diapers for output. But poops, not as much. the wet, like, especially in the very beginning, newborn, you know, the first week home or whatever, like milk's just coming in. We like to make sure the baby's got wet diapers and that the poop is changed from meconium, the dark sticky poop, that is changed to that yellow poop. We want to make sure that that's happened, and that's happened within the first few, 5 days or so. After that, I really don't worry too much about poop necessarily, but I do want to make sure, like, is there a lot of wet diapers? Okay, then the baby's hydrated. But sometimes moms will be like, but the baby didn't poop since yesterday, or only pooped once today, or only pooped once yesterday and hasn't pooped yet today. It's like, okay, well, we don't poop the same way our neighbor does. So, like, why do we have to have it where every baby poops the same? They don't. Their bodies work differently. And some babies don't poop every, 20 minutes. Some babies will poop every single feeding. Some babies don't.
This is a hot topic, man.
Yeah.
People get really upset about poop.
They do.
They
do.
really, really do.
Yes.
And you have a lot of people who get really angry. If you say, your baby's, your baby might not be pooping as much as you think they should, and there might not be a problem, people will come in and tell you off.
They will.
Oh, the baby should be pooping every hour, every half an hour. Your baby should have a long, constant stream of poop out of their butt always. It's like...
No.
There's no evidence that that's how babies are.
Right. I saw a mom last week who had a really difficult struggle with her first baby and only breastfed for a couple of months, did not have very good guidance, was told to contact me and didn't. She knows who she is. I don't know if she's listening. But so when she had her second one, she was like, I'm totally not going to be stubborn this time. I'm going to contact you, blah, blah, blah. So I saw her last week. And she does have she has a lot of milk, and her milk was just coming in, and she's got a lot of milk, and it's second baby. You have more milk with each baby. She had an oversupply with her first one. So she definitely, had a lot of milk, and this baby was taking a lot of milk when he fed. And I was there for probably an hour, and that baby pooped like 4 times and had the most raw little coolie because they get diaper rash from that. The baby was cut because he's getting too much milk, which is causing more waste. So it's like we don't want those babies. I'll ask, if a mom has oversupply or if they're overfeeding, sometimes it's not in the spitting up. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, the baby's not spitting up, but are they pooping a ton? Oh, yeah, a ton. Well, how does that feel? That doesn't feel good. Now they got a raw butt because they're pooping constantly. It hurts.
Yeah.
And that is from too much because now there's a lot of waste. Whereas if we're feeding them the way they're supposed to be being fed, they don't have as much waste because their body is using all that breast milk. So it's like we don't want, like, babies poop the way their body tells them to poop, just like we do. They're just little humans. Like I don't expect my kids to poop after every feeding. Every time they eat a meal, I don't expect them to poop. I just don't.
Right.
And babies, everybody go, it's different. They're babies, da-da-da. If they're not pooping, then there's a problem. I don't know. They're not that big. How much do they really have?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's so much contradictory information out there about that.
Yeah, there really is. There's a lot about that. But you call your pee, you're like, oh my gosh, the baby's constipated. Breastfed babies don't get constipated. It's like not a thing. I can't even find research on it. And believe me, I've looked. It's just not. It's not a thing.
People are going to be so mad that you said that.
I know. I'm sorry. But everybody can go look at the research, too. Look for the research. Like real research. Don't look on something stupid.
Not a blog.
Yeah. Not a blog.
I have a blog, and I'm telling you, don't look on my blog for, your evidence-based research. Like, This is not a place to look for that.
Some blogs will have, like, the actual,
I'll point you the way,
research or whatever. But, yeah.
Right.
But I have looked for evidence on this, and I couldn't find any. There's really nothing to it.
Okay, so output, not a sign.
Not a sign. Full feeling breasts.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
This is a good one. And this, because you have this baby, you feel full during pregnancy or you get bigger during pregnancy, you have the baby, your milk comes in and you like double in size. Some women do, some women don't, but a lot of women just feel more full, noticeably fuller. And then for days, you feel full. Then you empty with the feed, and then you fill back up again. And then you empty with the feed, and then you fill back up again. And you just get used to that feeling so full. And then your body adapts to it. and then you don't feel as full. And you know how many calls I get with people saying, I think something happened to my milk supply because it's like, I don't feel full anymore. I don't think I have enough milk anymore. I don't feel full.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it feels empty. They're just sagging here now. Yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to be now.
You are not supposed to feel full for the duration of your breastfeeding experience. However long that might be, you should not feel full that whole time. How uncomfortable would that be? Could you imagine?
No.
So that should go away. That should go away. And for some women, it goes away after the first couple of weeks. And for some women, it goes away after the first 2 or 3 months. But whatever your situation, if you start to feel not as full, that's okay. That's normal. It doesn't mean your milk supply is gone.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Your body should even out. If your body's not evening out after weeks and months, that's the problem.
Yes, exactly.
It should be evening out, and you shouldn't be feeling like an inflated balloon all the time.
No, not at all. So we don't want that.
Not
a sign. Along with that goes leaking.
Yeah.
Some women leak, some women do not leak. It's very individualized, and it means nothing.
And that has nothing to do with how much milk is in your breasts.
Right. It means nothing.
Just sometimes it leaks out.
Yep. So if your friend's like, oh my gosh, I leak all the time, and you're like, oh, I never leak. Go, I never leak. Like that should be your thing.
Yeah, you should brag about that.
Brag about it. It has no indication of your milk supply. It's just something that happens. So, growth spurts. How many times do you hear about like your baby or somebody says to you, oh my gosh, my baby is feeding like, every couple hours and everything was normal. And then all of a sudden they just seem so hungry all the time. I think something's going on with my milk supply. That's probably a growth spurt. Your baby is probably just, keep growing and needing more milk. So they're feeding more frequently, which is just going to give your body more milk. That's what's going to happen. They're getting what they need. They're just feeding extra to get it. It doesn't mean that you don't have it. It means they're telling your body that they need it and they're taking it. And that's normal.
Yep. And as long as you let them, you're going to do that, and they're going to, they know how to regulate your milk supply.
Yeah.
Just let them do their thing. They're going to make your milk supply totally exactly what it should be for them.
Yeah. And then they're going to even back out again to, whatever routine they were at before. They'll probably kind of cycle back into that again. But they do have those periods every few weeks or whatever where they eat. And moms go, oh my gosh, but just go with it because it's probably just a growth spurt. And if it's not a growth spurt, then that's something that's going to be a long-term thing. And they're going to be doing it all day long. And with growth spurts, it's not like how it is. So just kind of go with it. Let them feed. They boost your supply. They get what they need. And then they go back into their routine. And then you notice that they're bigger. Or their nails are grown. Or their hair looks longer. Or they're doing something new developmentally. It's amazing how it all goes together. Mm-hmm. Cluster feeding is another big one. It is really important to know before you have a baby that babies do cluster feed. And if they're cluster feeding, that does not mean there's something wrong with your milk supply. It means that that's what they're doing. It's comfort, it's security, it's trust, it's being with their mom. It's, some of it's about the food, but not always. So moms always go to that feeling of, okay, the baby's cluster feeding in the evening, and that's because I have less milk in the evening, right? I'm like, no, you don't. Actually, to be honest, your milk is higher in fat in the evening, so they should not even need as much because they're getting more milk or more substance to that milk. They just cluster feed because it's just what they do. It's just a baby thing, and it starts usually after 2 or 3 weeks, and it goes on till about 2 months or so. Usually what I ask moms is, okay, are they doing that all day? No, it's just like maybe from like 7 to 10. Okay, that's cluster feeding. If your baby wasn't getting enough milk, that would be happening all day long. Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, it's just those little, like, you just got to plant that seed, and then they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Like, my milk supply wouldn't dip just at a certain time of the day. It just doesn't. Oh, yeah, I have no milk at 7 p.m., but I'm full of milk at 1 p.m., so maybe my baby should just feed at 1 p.m., because that's when I have all the milk. No, it doesn't work like that. So the last one that we're going to talk about is the frequency of feedings. So one cool thing that we haven't really talked about on the podcast that is a really real thing is storage capacity. And every woman has different storage capacity in her breasts. And if you're a woman who has a smaller storage capacity, then maybe your baby's eating a little bit more frequently. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you have less milk. It just means your breasts are filling at a different rate and you're holding a different amount of milk than maybe somebody else who's feeding every, 4 hours or whatever. It's just different. So if your baby is still gaining weight fine, they're growing fine, they're developing fine, all of that stuff is fine. It doesn't matter how frequently they eat. So that people look at that and go, oh, maybe you're not making enough milk because you're feeding your baby every hour and a half instead of every 3 hours, like society tells you should be.
Right.
It does not mean anything. We want your baby to be growing and be happy and developing and reaching their milestones. And if they're doing that, if they're doing that, feeding more frequently than not frequently, then what's the problem? Like, that's okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. I think we have this built-in kind of thing just to worry.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's a survival thing. That's like, it's what gets us, that's just what kept us alive. But you can trust your baby to kind of be working this out. And if you have, if after listening to this podcast, you still have questions about your milk supply, or you still have concerns because of other things that you're seeing, then contact a lactation consultant, because they're going to be able to give you a one-on-one consultation and listen to the whole story of what's going on. And people, will say, well, it's too much work, it's too much, I don't have time for that. But you're going to your pediatrician. I know you all are.
Yeah.
Because everyone goes to those appointments, and everyone, and we buy all the stuff. We had like a lactation consultation is going to cost a little bit of money. It will not cost as much as supplementing with formula.
No, it won't.
It will not cost as much as, all the other things that you're buying for your baby anyway.
Right.
And this is something that and Dianne does consultations, which you can find at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, and you can help people file with their insurance, right?
Yeah. Yep. And the other thing that I tell my husband, I should tell other people, but I tell him because, that's just the way life rolls. He's there listening sometimes. But I had this happen yesterday where I spent a really long time with a family, and the majority of what I did with them was a lot of this stuff. And it was a lot about, your baby's behaving this way because of this, and your baby's behaving this way because of this, and this is what you should do with your newborn, and this is what, it was a lot of just talking about normal baby behavior. It's education. And one of my degrees is in maternal child health. So I am very skilled in helping a mom kind of navigate through it. It's not even just, half the time what I do with families isn't even lactation, I feel like. It's more about like baby behavior and settling in and getting things, like, you're not going to get that at your pediatrician you're not going to get that with just random online stuff. You have to have somebody that's looking at the whole picture, at the whole dyad, and being able to go, okay, this is what I see happening here. It's worth its weight in gold.
Oh my God. It really is just so worth it. It is so worth it. And you likely won't need more than one consultation.
Right.
I didn't. I talked to one lactation consultant both times with both children. And that one conversation completely changed my direction.
Yep.
And I ended up breastfeeding them, until they were like, adults. Just kidding. But for a really long time, it just completely changed the course of events.
But the bottom line here is, if you ever have concerns about your milk supply, don't just automatically turn to, oh my God, I better throw in the towel. Like, definitely find the answers, because it's important. Find the answers for that, because it might not be an issue at all. It might just be something else that we need to look at.
Yep, it might be totally normal.
Yep, absolutely. And that's it. That's my list.
Thank you so much for listening. And please share your experience in the review section on iTunes, and maybe you can be our review of the week. And also head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, where you can find sponsor links, our promo codes, all of our other episodes, as well as a list of resources and information about how you can schedule your online consultation with Dianne.
Bye.